Hello there, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't really suppose it matters, it depends whenever you're watching this really. Welcome to Non-Stop Kids Entertainment's television channel. You might have met me before. My name is Alex. I've been doing the fun with science. I've done a little bit of magic for you all as well. And today it is time to do some fun with maths. Now I know a lot of you are thinking that maths isn't fun, it's just numbers and it's all boring, and it's really not. Maths is about more than numbers, it's about shapes and it's about problems and it's about solving different things using sort of the knowledge and the skills that you can pick up. But today I thought I'd show you some fun things that you could do with shapes, and to do this there's a lot of things that you can do. All you need is some paper, some scissors and a little bit of tape. And I've got a pen over here as well. Now this is a Sharpie marker. If you're going to use a Sharpie marker, please do be careful. Do not get it on your clothes, do not get it on your furniture, do not get it on anything, otherwise your parents will call up, they will kill me. No, if you're going to use a pen, just be careful that you don't get it on anything. But we're going to start off with some fairly basic shapes, and then I'm going to actually move on to one of my favourite shapes in the world. It is called a Mobius loop, if you've ever heard of one of those. And I'm going to show you some really cool things that you can do with one of those. But to start off with, I need to cut off some paper. So I'm going to start with a little bit of A4 paper, and we need a little bit of a wide strip, and I'm going to have quite a long one. So we're going to just cut like this. Now when you are cutting paper, you need to be very careful that you don't cut your fingers, and you don't cut your sister's fingers or your brother's fingers or your parents' fingers. And in fact, if you are really young, get your parents to help you with the scissors, okay? So you need a strip of paper. And what we're going to do, we're going to start by taking some sellotape. If you can find the end of a sellotape, you're better than I am. Where is the end of a sellotape? There we go. Now if I was prepared, I would have done this before the video, but I'm being rushed. Now when you make these, it's very important that you use as much sellotape as you possibly can so that they don't all come undone when you're doing things. What I'm going to, it's falling again now, it doesn't matter. Right, so what we're going to do, we're going to put this across the end of the piece like that. We're going to fold it around, just going to overlap them ever so slightly, and we're going to tape the two pieces together. And we're going to tape both sides as well, just so that it is properly stuck together. If I can find it, where's it gone? Ooh. There we go. If I was prepared, I'd have got strips of these already pre-made, wouldn't I? It'd be like Blue Peter, and here's one I made earlier. But sadly, this is not Blue Peter, this is me looking for sellotape. There we go, found it again. I'm going to take a little bit. That's broken. Let's try again. There we go. We're going to take a little bit more sellotape. And perfect. If you're going to do that, just be very careful of your fingers. And we're going to put some sellotape on the inside section here. You can see where it joins on the inside there. We're just going to take some sellotape and we're going to put that along that join so that it is properly joined together. Now this in maths is called a loop, and this in itself is quite boring. And I'll show you the reason why. If you take a pen and you put it, say, in the middle, and you move it like this, you're going to get one line on one side of the loop, and that's a bit boring. If you were to take a loop like this and you were to cut it in half, you just get two loops. I'll show you what I mean. If we take this, we cut it in half down the middle, you just get two loops, and that's not very fun at all. However, there are some more fun things that you can do with the loops, and that is if you have two of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out two more strips of paper. So I'm going to pause the video while I cut these bits out, because it's going to be a bit boring just watching me cut loads of strips out. I'm going to make two loops in the exact same way. So I'll be back in just a moment when I've made. I'm back. I have just spent a little bit of time making two loops of paper. These are my two loops here. Now what we're going to do, we're going to stick them together, and we're going to see what happens if we cut them in half when they're stuck together. Now, if I stick them together like this, I'm just going to get two sort of smaller loops stuck together. So we're going to change it slightly. We're actually going to stick them together at 90 degrees to each other. So they sort of look a little bit like that. And when you do this, it's very important that you use lots and lots of sellotape, because otherwise they might come apart when you cut them together. So I'm just going to get some more sellotape if I can find the end. There we go, found the end of the sellotape this time, even easier. Now if you are having trouble using the sellotape, you might want to get one of your parents to come and help you with this. And in fact, actually, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you a really cool, really nice gift that you can make and give to your parents using what I'm going to show you a little bit later on. So this time I've got a little bit of a bottle here. I'm just going to stick the tape to the top of it so I can find the end easily. Right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take this and I'm just going to quickly tape it like this here. So that's sort of taped there. And I'm going to do the same on the other side, and then I'm going to just put loads and loads and loads of tape on it so that it stays together while I'm cutting, because I don't want it falling apart while I'm doing any cutting. So that can go there, and this can go here. There we go. So it's now sort of stuck together like that, how I want it. I'm going to put loads of tape along here, loads of tape along here. And it's going to hopefully stay together. I found the end of the tape. I am smarter than a piece of tape. So I should not be as happy as I am about that. Right, we're going to take a little bit of sellotape here. Now do be careful when you are cutting sellotape. I am an adult and I'm being very careful. If you are a child, it might be worth getting one of your parents, one of your adults to help you cut the tape for you, just so that you know that you're safe. Some adults even use their teeth. Don't do that because it might get stuck to your lips, and if it gets stuck to your lips, it's going to be really painful, and you don't want that. You don't want a trip to the hospital, especially at the moment, you're all trapped inside and everything like that. So we're going to do this. Stay, good. We're going to put this on here, and this on here. In fact, if Luke's really good at his editing, he might even be able to speed up through this bit, I don't know. Oh, Luke, by the way, is brilliant. Luke is the guy who edits all of the videos for Non-Stop Kids at the moment. He is doing a fantastic job at the moment with all of these videos. But like I said, if Luke is really on top of his editing, he'll probably speed up through all of this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause the video while I properly tape up this, because I don't want you to just have a 7-minute video of me taping things up. So I'm going to pause this myself as well. Hopefully Luke will speed up a little bit through it, and we will have at the end of this a nice taped up. So I'm back and we have this nice and properly taped up. As you can see, there's loads of tape on that side, but there's also loads of tape on the other side as well. There's loads of tape all over this, so hopefully when I cut this in half, it's not going to fall apart. Now I'm going to cut this in half. I'm going to do this in a slightly special way so that you can see what happens at the end. So I'm going to start off by cutting around here like this. And I'm going to get almost to the middle here, but I'm not going to cut that little bit at the end there, because I want this to be a big surprise. Right, okay, so we're going to cut along here like this. And again, we're going to almost get to the middle here, but I'm not going to quite cut there yet, because I want you to see if you can guess what shape this will be once I finish cutting it in half, okay? So I want you to guess, if you can, what shape this will be. Will it be a 3D shape? Will it be a 2D shape? We're going to cut almost to the middle there. I want you to guess if it will be, will it be just 2 loops? I want you to have a guess at what you think it will be. And then what we'll do, we're going to finish cutting this off just now. We have a bit in the middle here, we can cut it in half, and a bit down the middle here, we're going to cut in half. And if I open it up, you will see hopefully that this has become, with a little bit of teasing, where are we? There we go, a square, which I think is really weird, but if you think about it, it sort of makes sense, because if you have your one loop here that you've cut in half, and you have your other loop here that you've cut in half, you can see how it unfolds to become a square. And that is really cool. However, that's not my favourite shape. My favourite shape, as I said, is something called a Mobius loop. Now, Mobius loop is a bit like that, it's a bit like the loop, but it's a little bit different. You see, instead of joining it together like this, you take it and you put a twist in it, and then with a twist in it, you join the ends together. And that might not sound like a lot, but it does actually make a lot of difference. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause the video while I make a Mobius loop, and I'm going to show you some cool things that you can do with a Mobius loop. Actually, I figured it would actually be a better idea if I didn't pause the video while I make the first one, so that you can make along, and then as I make other ones, I'll just pause the video then. So we've got some sellotape here. We have our strip of paper here. We're going to put some tape along the edge of our strip like we did with the last one. Now this time, instead of joining it like that, we're going to twist it and join it together like this. And we need some sellotape. Oops. I'll sort of find the end later. And we're going to put a lot of sellotape on both sides. Now this, what you can actually do is you can make a bet, because with a loop like this, remember the line only stays on one side. However, with this one, if you put a pen here, and if you just pull it, let's go this way actually, there we go, you can hopefully, if I put a pen here, and if I pull it like this, there we go, once it gets around the loop here, there we go, and you can try this at home. I'm just going to try and do this slightly because it's a bit awkward with this. You can see there, if I keep the line going, and keep the line going, and keep the line going, you can see I'm not cheating, I'm not putting a line anywhere else, I am just keep going along this line here. Eventually, there we go, that's where we started, there's the sellotape. We're going to go over here like this, over here like this. We're going to continue along here like this. And you can try this at home along with me as well. If you get a pen and you get your paper and you keep going along this line like this. Oop. Where have we got to? We've got to here. We're going to go along the line here like this. And keep going along here. And we get back to exactly where we started. That means, and this is really weird, this shape only actually has one side. It's weird, isn't it? It's a 3D shape, but it only has one side, but it gets even weirder. Now remember, with a normal loop, when we cut it in half, we've got two halves of one loop. Now what do you think happens if we cut one of these in half? Well, I'll show you. And while I'm cutting it along in half, I want you to have a guess and see if you're right at the end. Do we get two loops? Do we get something else? Do we get a different shape? What do we get? So what we're going to do, we're going to have a little guess. Do we get two loops? Do we get a weird shape? Do we get one loop? What do we get? I want you to have a think because we're almost there now, and we're going to find out in 3, 2, 1. We've cut it and we actually have, what? We have an even bigger Mobius loop. Now this one is slightly different because we only twisted it once. This one, as you can see, has been twisted multiple times, but it is still a Mobius loop. It is still a one-sided twisted thing, and that I find really weird because when it didn't have any loops in it, you got two of them, and when you got this one, you got loads. You got one big one here, and it's really weird. But thing is, as well, when we put these two together, we got a big square as well when we cut it in half. What do you think happens if you put two Mobius loops together? Now, there's a weird thing here with Mobius loops, and that is you can twist them in different ways. So I'm actually going to need 4 loops of paper, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this piece of paper in half, and then fold it in half again, and that's going to give me some lines to get some really, really nice and even Mobius loops. And what we're going to do, we're going to stick them all together, and then we're going to hope, so I'm just going to cut these out, so we've got some strips. I'm going to pause the video while I do that. We're going to make some Mobius loops, and while I make them, I'm going to have to unpause the video while I make them a little bit, just so that I can explain something to you. So, I'm going to pause while I do some cutting, and then I'll be back to you. Right, so we now have our 4 loops, and this is the bit that I need to talk to you about. Because when you twist the Mobius loop, when you're here, you can either twist it this way, or you can twist it that way. So when you stick 2 of them together, you can have one loop that's twisted this way, stuck to another loop that's twisted that way, or you can have a loop that's twisted this way, stuck to a loop that's twisted this way. And if you stick both of them together, you actually get different results. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some Mobius loops, and they're all going to be twisted this way, apart from one which is going to be twisted the other way. And then I will stick them together, and we will get back and I'll show you what happens when you cut them in half when you stick them together. So I'm just going to pause this while I make some Mobius loops, and then I'll show you what I've done, and then I'll stick them together, and we'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so I'm back. What I've done is I made one Mobius loop that is one way round, and these three here all go the same. So we've now got one that is different and three that are the same. So we're going to put these two different and these two the same. We're going to stick them together like we did the other thing. So the best way to do this, you can see you've got a nice flat bit here, and you can see you've got a nice flat bit here. You want those to be at 90 degrees to each other. You want those flat bits to make a nice little cross. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly pause the video while I tape these together and use lots of tape, and then we're going to find out what happens when you cut some Mobius loops in half. Okay, so I'm back. I have stuck these together. As you can see, they sort of make a nice little cross with the strips there, and the same here. Now these are our ones that are twisted differently, and these are our ones that are twisted the same. So I do have a question, and that is, what do you think is going to happen when we cut both of them in half? So let's start with the ones that are twisted the same. What we're going to do, we're going to take the scissors, we're going to cut, there's a nice little bit here that we can start our cut, and we're going to go down the middle like we did with the other one. It's a little bit more tricky because they're all twisted and it's a little bit complicated. We're not going to go quite all the way to the middle yet, just because I want you to have a guess at what shape it's going to be. Will it be two shapes? Will it split into two? Will it be two separate shapes? Will it be one big shape? Will it be two shapes that are linked? What do you think it will be? Do you think it will be a square like it was the other time? Do you think it will be something that looks like a square but isn't quite a square? Maybe a rectangle? I want you to have a think about what you think this is going to look like when we finish cutting it in half. So we are almost there now. We've got a little bit of cutting in the middle left to do. I'm going to give you a few more seconds while I finish cutting it, just to have a think about what you think it might look like when it is finished being cut in half. We've got one final cut to make here. So we have, weirdly, two separate shapes that make really no sense at all. That make no sense at all. We've got like this weird, strange, separate, I don't know what it is, like a twisted square really, isn't it? And we have a similar sort of twisted square, maybe a kite shape here. And that's a bit boring. But what about when we have two different twisted ones? If we take these and we cut these in half, what do we think we're going to get? So we can take these. Again, remember, twisted differently. Do we think we're going to get the same thing as last time? Do we think we're going to get a different thing to last time? Do we think that it's going to change? Do you think it's maybe going to be a more recognisable shape? Do you think it's going to be two shapes again? Two shapes linked together, two shapes separate like it was last time? Do we think it's going to be... do you think it's going to be a square, a triangle, a rectangle? What shapes do you think it's going to be? So we're almost there now. I'm just going to cut down the middle along here. And it's getting quite complicated to cut all this in the middle here like this. Right, okay, so we have got one cut to make here. And this cut along here to make. That one's already gone in half. Right, okay then, that. Right, so, ooh, that's weird. This time we have two shapes that are linked together. Not only that, if we just twist this a little bit more, I think that looks like two hearts linked together. And if you're watching this, I think that would make a fantastic present for whichever parent you're stuck at home with, or both parents. So if you want to give a present to your parents, a nice present to your parents, what you can do is you can take two strips of paper, twist them in different ways, stick them together and cut them in half, and you get two hearts linked together. Make sure you twist them in different ways, or otherwise you're going to get two just really weird shapes that are separate to each other. And I think that is really, really cool, that you can take the same shape, just do one little tiny change and get two completely different things from it. And that is what maths is about. So, there's loads of things on Non-Stop Kids TV. There's going to be daily magic shows. There's me doing some maths. I'm going to be doing some science as well. And the next maths session, I'm going to be teaching you how to write a secret code. And in the next science session, I'm going to be teaching you how to use lemon juice as invisible ink, so that even if someone finds and works out your code, they're not even going to know that you've sent anything to anyone. There's people doing stories, there's dancing, there is so much on this channel. Please do stick around, like, subscribe, whatever it is. Thank you very, very much for indulging. I have been Alex Foden. This has been some fun maths. These have been Mobius loops. I have a lot of fun playing with these myself, to be perfectly honest. Have a fantastic day. Enjoy yourself.